Hey everybody, I've had a couple questions on how to work through primarily the last part of question 1 in your chapter 1 homework. So what I'm going to do is work through an example. This may or may not be your exact question because this is one of the questions that it changes it up for everybody a little bit. The problem is Carl, who was single, died in 2021 with a gross estate valued at $8.2 million. 6 months after his death, it grew to 8.4. The estate had funeral and administration expenses of $120,000. Also, he had debts of $135,000 and gave all of his estate to his children. During his life, he made no taxable gifts. First question in your homework is we need to figure out how much of the estate is taxable. So we're going to start with the gross estate, which was $8,200,000. After that, we know that he had to pay off some debt out of that. So that's going to be $135,000. Let me go back and put some commas in that gross estate so it makes it a little bit easier for us to stay organized. The other thing that the estate had to pay for was funeral and administrative costs. So we're going to take that $120,000 out. When we do the math on this, we come up with a taxable estate of $7,945,000. When we check our answers on that, we see that those are all correct. So now the next question is, what is the tax base for computing Carl's estate tax? The only thing we need to think about here is, did he make any gifts after 1976? So we're going to pull the taxable estate down from the answer that we figured it out above, $7,945,000. And his donations, his gifts after 1976 is 0. He didn't make any. So that means that his estate tax base is $7,945,000. When we check the answers on that, we see that we're good there. So then the question becomes, and this is where a lot of you are getting a little tricked up here, what is the estate tax that is due? What we're dealing with right now is what's called the unified credit for estates. What we need to do is we need to take this amount that filled in for us based on the tax table, and we're going to subtract out the unified credit. How do we figure out what that unified credit is? Well, we come up to the chart, and the chart says, as of 2021, for the first $11,700,000 of estate, the tax credit is going to be $4,625,800. So, on his estate tax, which is $3,123,800, there's going to be a credit of $4,625,800. But the law says he doesn't get money back on this. So if it doesn't meet the $4,625,800, then there's just 0 tax due. So we're good there. Let me go through and fill in the blank answers. And we have those in. So here's the other part that everyone tends to get tripped up on, and that is, how would our answer change in parts A, B, and C if the gross estate was $18.2 million instead of $8.2 million, and the tentative estate tax before credits was $7,123,800? So let's go through and look at that for a second. The taxable estate is going to be calculated just like we did before, except that we're going to have an extra $10 million here. So with that in mind, the taxable estate, which we're still going to subtract debts and funeral and administrative expenses, the taxable estate is going to be $17,945,000. Likewise, whenever we look at the second part of this, which is the tax base, he still didn't make any gifts, even though the value of the estate was higher. So that's still going to be exactly what it was before with the new amounts. So it's going to also be the $17,945,000. The question becomes, what is the estate tax that's due? So this part of the problem actually saved you a little bit of work. Instead of having to work your way back down to figure out what this estate tax would be, the problem's given it to you. 7/123/800 instead of 3/123/800. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that exact amount that they gave you in the problem, 7/123/800, and subtract out that credit, 4/625/800, and that leaves us an estate tax due of $2,498,000. When we check our answers on that, we see that we got them right. So the trick is basically what we're trying to work out here is, in the first example, the credit is more than the tax that's due, so it's 0. In the second one, the credit isn't bigger than the tax due, so we have to do the math and figure out what it is. Hope that helps, folks.